what could be a major climate alarm bell, really a massive marine heat wave swept across Southeast Asia and the Pacific in 2024, engulfing nearly 40 million square kilometers of ocean, 5 times the size of Australia. That's according to a new report that's come in from the World Meteorological Organization. And scientists say that the extreme ocean temperatures were fueled largely by the climate crisis and coincided with a wave of devastating weather elements, from deadly landslides in the Philippines to flooding in Australia and several such other disasters. And nearly half a degree Celsius is now it's hotter than the 1991-2020 average. Satellite data also shows sea levels have been rising as well. So how significant is this? So what are the kind of alarm bells that this raises? Let's get in Seth Warren, who's in fact a director of the Eneref Institute, joining me on the broadcast. Let me start by asking you in terms of explain to us and put these numbers into context for us to understand the significance or rather the gravity of what we are talking here.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this issue to bear. It's certainly crucial. It's hard to get your head around 40 million kilometers or 5 times the size of Australia. But another way you could look at it is 10% of the ocean, which I'm sure all your viewers know that the Earth is primarily ocean. And you did mention a number that was 5 degrees. That you're talking about you're talking about the atmosphere, but the temperature just above a few meters above the ocean, or as much as 4 or 5 Celsius degrees above what is normal. And why that's significant is because those temperatures affect the weather throughout the world. And you see increased number of hurricanes, and the severity of the hurricanes is from that kind of temperature. I'm sure you've heard over and over people talk about with the rising temperature of the oceans, that creates more energy, et cetera. And so this is pretty significant. And it's not just one event at that size. It's multiple events that are happening in the same area, and we rate them from moderate to strong to severe. And there have been some severe areas like in Papua New Guinea late last year, and this has been going on now for a year and a half. We started recording it as an event in early April 2024, and it's continuing, and we see no sign of it abating at this point.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Now, what is it that we can actually do to ensure that we do not exacerbate this trend further? Because at the end of the day, this is a climate crisis.
So, speaking to that specifically, and you're right. What can we do? We have to do everything that we're being told to avoid using fossil fuels. So if there's something called the Climate Shift Index, which looks at what's the likelihood of this event happening were there no climate change, no global warming, versus where it is today, where there is, and the ratio is 20 to 1. What that means is that the Climate Shift Index means it's 20 times more likely that this weather event, this marine heat wave, would have happened than had we not been burning fossil fuels for the last 100+ years. But in the peak season, which I think is late November, it's 100 times more likely. So the answer is quite obvious. We need to find a way to stop using fossil fuels. And as you talked about some of the things that's going on in the United States, and the unfortunate that the United States has walked away from the Paris Agreement. Hopefully that will not encourage other countries to do the same.
U.S. has also identified millions of square kilometers of land that it will now be drilling more in Alaska. So what are we really talking about here? What else can be done? Let's talk about that, sir.
Well, certainly, for folks in the States, we need to call our legislators and tell them that, but I have seen that throughout Asia, the electric cars are becoming more popular, which is great. I've seen it in India, I've seen it in China, I've seen it in Vietnam, and throughout. So I think that's one of the things that we can do. We have to be more attentive to. So there's two sides of the equation. We always talk about generating energy through solar and wind and all, and which is fantastic. At the same time, we have to reduce our load. And again, Asia is way ahead. Your air conditioner is an inverter-driven air conditioner. In the West, United States, for example, you rarely see an inverter-driven air conditioner, which is 30% more efficient. Why is that? Well, because there are industries and politics that are involved in changing the way things are being done. So the answer is we have to do what we all know we have to do, which is not necessarily sacrificing, but to shift the way in which we're using energy.
All right, let's leave it there. So thanks much for speaking to NDTV. Well, we have limited, if any, options there. Don't